Good morning, South Anchorage High School, and those of you watching out in the great wide Anchorage world. It has been a significantly long week this week. I don't know if anyone else has noticed, but it feels like we've been away from you for so long, even though it was only 2 days ago that we last hung out together. So a lot has taken place in those 2 days. School started on Tuesday, so all of you have been orientated until you are so much oriented to the point of no return. I talked to a few people afterwards that say they feel very, very oriented, and that there's no way at all they're going to get lost because they know true north for sure. Now, moving on, let's get into some information I think is pretty valuable for everyone out there. First off, Alaskan graduates of 2020 do not need to take the ACT or SAT. Let me repeat that. If you are graduating this year, you do not need to take the ACT or SAT for the Alaska Performance Scholarship. Okay, this is super important to think about. The test score requirements have been waived. Gone. Goodbye. This allows poor test takers but good students to rely on GPA and required classes. So we're going to focus this year for, pandemic world, is that if you're graduating this year and you didn't take the SAT or the ACT and you still want to apply for the Alaska Performance Scholarship, by all means, go apply. There you go. That's fantastic. Next, the National Honor Society induction, originally scheduled for tonight, has been postponed until further notice, which I think most of us probably understood would happen. We're not going to get together in a big room and induct you into the National Honor Society, and something will happen when the cloud of this world lifts. Members with questions can email Miss Dietrich. Current members should receive remind notices from Michaela regarding future activities and summer hours. So check your reminds if you're already a member, and check your emails if you're applying. And speaking of Miss Dietrich and everything she is involved in, super busy lady, the last day to pre-order yearbook is tomorrow. Okay, so if you want to pre-order, which I kind of think is the best option right now, is to pre-order, because I doubt we're going to have a stack of these sitting somewhere in the school for you to purchase. If you want to pre-order, you need to do it by tomorrow. They've already sold over half the books. You can order in queue, or you can go into www.yearbookforever.com. www.yearbookforever.com. Pre-order your yearbook today. All right, let's get some updates on Peeps. Bria has replaced her car brakes, and someone spelled it wrong in there, with nothing but duct tape, a YouTube video, and some leftover jambalaya. Grace and Clara have solved all their differences as sisters and have begun the takeover of 42 of the top Fortune 500 companies in the world. This is pretty amazing. See what happens when you get along, kids. If only I could teach my own daughters this skill. All right, then moving on to Ozzy. Hey, actually, we don't really know. Ozzy hasn't really emerged from his blanket tunnel since the last time we heard from him. We do assume that his mustache is now epic. So this is a reach out, Ozzy. This is to you. We care, man. We need to see your face. We need to see the length of the mustache. We need to see how you're doing. Come out of the tunnel. Come back in the light. Go towards the light, Ozzy. Go towards the light. You probably don't get that. If you don't, you need to talk to your parents and find out if they want to sit down and watch the original Poltergeist together, because that'll scare you big time. Moving on to our guests today. We have a lot of guests today, and we're going to move on and talk to those folks right now. Introducing Melissa Boyette. She's going to give you all a wave right there. She is a state epidemiologist specialist, epidemiology specialist, and she is here, and a South parent, so I can see the shoulder of possible South student. Let's give us a wave. That's fantastic. Yay. She is joining us today to go over your questions. So if you have questions that you want access to somebody who is in the front lines of like decision making and understanding some things and seeing what's happening at the top and in the conversation where all the science is happening, make sure you get your questions into the live chat over there, and we will make sure that Mr. Pernage asks those questions. Next with us today also is Mike Jipping. Mike, give us a wave. Well, see that there's his hand just above the counter. You can kind of see it if you're on a giant screen. He is the owner of Beachtribemike Soda Works and another South parent, but I'm not sure his student is in the kitchen with him. If so, I don't know where. That's a big frame. All right, we also have Scott Brown, representative from Jostens, joining us today. He's going to answer some questions that seniors might have about all the materials and everything for graduation and how that works. And then, of course, we have Dr. Luke Allman, who is always here with us and present to give us the latest news and waiting for me to give another tagline to his title, and I'm not, because I'm being tricky. All right, also joining us today, we have Elliot, student government rep, and Mr. Smiley. Yep, that's for some reason, I knew he was going to do that while writing show prep, so that was pretty fantastic. And of course, as always, we have the leader in all things, Tim Pernage, the man with 1,000 jobs, who, if it wasn't for him, I got to tell you guys, he really keeps this space together. Otherwise, it's kind of like chasing cats. And let's hope his cat doesn't make an appearance today on Zoom. All right, so moving into our guests, we're going to start with Miss Boyette. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you could give us kind of a big picture of who you are and what you do, that'd be awesome. And then we move on to our questions and answers.
Thanks. Yeah, so I'm a South mom. I'm Abby Webster's mom. She's a senior. Poor seniors. And I work for the section of epidemiology with State of Alaska Division of Public Health. And normally I do other infectious disease work, specifically around HIV, but we've all been pulled into doing COVID investigation. And so really my view is more in the trench, not so much high level. But I really wanted everyone to understand what we do and what we're doing to follow up on COVID cases and kind of how you all fit in and where these recommendations for social distancing that are ruining your social lives come from and why we're asking you to do these things so that it can maybe become a little more real and a little more vivid, so you know that you really are doing a huge service to the community by staying home and being bored. So yeah, that's kind of where I fit. I am embedded in the section of epidemiology, and we are the section kind of responsible for receiving case reports for positive COVID. So every person that tests positive for COVID-19, that gets reported to our program. And as of right now, we're actually interviewing every single person that tests positive for COVID-19 through a process that we call contact tracing. This is a super old school process. Public health has been doing this for 100 years. And we're really hoping that it'll be an important containment strategy. So the idea is when somebody tests positive, we talk with them, one, to learn about how their symptoms kind of presented themselves so we can really understand the signs and symptoms that people are experiencing. And then we walk back in time with them in what we call their infectious period. So that is 2 days before they become symptomatic. Scary, right? So if my question for all of you to ponder and think about is, how big would your list be if I asked you to give me a list of everyone you had close contact with in the last 48 hours? And what we want, like, so that's gonna be like my new hashtag is like hashtag how big is your list? Because it is a nightmare when people tell us, well, I went to Fred Meyer and I went to IHOP and I went to Walmart and then I did my church group. I know we're not supposed to be meeting, but we are. And then I went to my book club, and we're like, oh my God, are you kidding me? Versus, well, I've been social distancing. So, I mean, like my family, and I went for a hike. Those interviews are awesome. Thumbs up. The other people, thumbs down. That's lame, because that's like 50, 60 people that then have to be tracked down, notified that they've been exposed to COVID-19, and quarantined. All of those people. And so the social distancing, the purpose of all of that is to interrupt the chain of transmission. The fewer people you're coming into contact with, one, the less likely you are to get infected with COVID-19. There's fewer opportunities for exposure. Great. Two, should you become infected with COVID-19, there are fewer people that you may infect. So social distancing is a hugely important strategy for breaking up that chain of transmission. So Do I keep talking? Do I just
No,
keep
that's
talking?
great.
I can talk all day.
I think that's a really solid start, and I think that while Clara's getting some questions ready that she has for you, I just want to jump in and ask a couple questions real quick, personally, just because I think you hit on it, and I think we could kind of weasel it out just a little bit more. So one of the things that I've been watching closely a little bit, and I think a lot of people around town have as well, is the idea that Anchorage seems to show less of that exponential growth that we see in some of those other places. And is it wrong of me as a person to read that and say, hey, this might be working, let's keep it up, let's stick it out, let's this is working, it's that boost of confidence, not to go out and see people, but instead that boost of confidence that, hey, being the natural loner I am is working, it's helping out. So right. Where do you go on that?
Yeah, what we're seeing is the cases are kind of, it's sort of a smattering. So there's still travel related cases. I mean, I just interviewed somebody that went on a mission trip to Asia. I was like, why would you do that in March? Oh my God. So people are still coming back from trips that they've taken outside of Alaska. And a lot of these trips were planned way before the world ended, right? Way before dystopian universe of COVID-19. People had these trips on the books, and they may have started their trip early March and didn't get home until the world ended. So I don't want to be too snarky, but I am kind of irritated that people are still traveling and not quarantining, which is a mandate. You got to quarantine yourself for 14 days when you get home. But there are parts of the state that are kind of hotspots. And one of those is Fairbanks. And what we're finding, we are seeing some transmission in healthcare facilities and long-term care facilities. So, and these are often healthcare visits that had really nothing to do with COVID-19. So a patient comes in to see, a OBGYN doctor or an orthopedist or for a routine physical therapy visit, and they're shedding COVID-19, unbeknownst to them, unbeknownst to their provider. And then there's transmission that happens from that provider onto their patient population. So Fairbanks in particular has two solid pockets that are happening in that way, that the cases really are linked together and we can see that they're all related. So outside of travel, we have what we're calling close contacts. And those are test results that we expect to see, right? Like if I got COVID-19 because I went somewhere on spring break and I came back and I was good and I quarantined myself, the incubation period, or sort of how long it takes before you would show signs and symptoms, varies from 2 to 14 days for COVID-19. 14 days is a pretty long time. The average is 5 days. So if I come home and I kind of develop COVID, probably everyone in my house is going to get sick, especially if, because we're always chasing symptoms, right? We didn't know we were shedding virus that 2 days before we got sick. So those test results, like if my husband and Abby went out and got tested, we would expect those to be positive. Those are close contacts. They're not random, they're related. We like to see those results because we're sort of identifying cases that we expect to see. And then some of our travel cases make a lot of sense. People tell us, I was in Washington. Well, Washington's a super hot spot. I was in New York. It's the random cases where there's no particular source that tell us that we're seeing community spread. And in Anchorage, we have had some community spread, but it's been less maybe than other places. And I was, there's so much data on the internet right now. There's data coming every which way from every way sideways about COVID-19. And one of the data points I was super interested in was all about cell phone data. And it tracked sort of around Anchorage. 64%. People are staying put, and that's exactly what we need them to do. And so I think because of that, it is reducing transmission in the community. There's just no other way around it. We definitely feel that we would see more cases if people were just going about their business, acting like nothing's happening. And the people that are getting infected are kind of doing that. They're just going about their business, acting like nothing happened. So yeah, I think we are kind of winning. The question we all ask is, how long is this sustainable?
Well,
And how long will it take?
and just from that perspective, the idea that if we are winning, it's not the kind of situation where it's okay, it's time to leave the field. Like I do feel like it's kind of a bump up in confidence of when you find out that yes, all of this that you're going through is helping. It's easier to go through it. It's easier to do it. It's easier to understand that it's okay to be this way because it is helping. And so I thank you for kind of jumping on there and taking that away. I really dig that. Clara, do you have some questions for our guest today?
Yeah, I've actually got a few. First of all, one from Corinne, actually. Would you say it's, um, like, from a community health standpoint, is it responsible to go and, like, pick up food from a restaurant, like, without doing the no contact pickup, no contact delivery? Is it okay to just go into a restaurant?
So when we're looking at exposures, who to notify, right? Like, how are we defining an exposure? We're defining that as closer than 6 feet for 10 minutes or more. So the way that COVID-19 is transmitted is through respiratory droplets. And you have to be close enough to somebody for those respiratory droplets to land on your eyes and nose and mouth for you to inhale them, for you to get infected. So the 6 feet or more really is to prevent contact with respiratory droplets. So there are some restaurants in town that like I think Bear's Tooth should be in charge of infection control at a hospital. Like, they're amazing. Their whole setup is amazing. And it is truly like dialed in like a science. There are other restaurants that are a little more loosey-goosey, but you as a patron can kind of control how you engage with that. You can request to pay by phone. You can ensure that there's still 6 feet of distance between you and the person that you're picking up the food. You can say, oh, you can just stand on the counter for me and you can go pick it up. So I think, yeah, we have to be able to function. And in that setting of a to-go order setting, we're really not within 6 feet or less for 10 minutes or more of people. So it really doesn't facilitate transmission. And we really do encourage folks to continue supporting local businesses. We get that this sucks. Like, it's hard, and everybody is losing out on business, which we all would too if we had like this gigantic peak of COVID cases that paralyzed society. We would see the same economic effects, right? So we're with COVID-19 at some point. The question is it going to take a month or is it going to take a year? What we would like to see is a slow grind. Just a nice little steady grind where people get exposed and they kind of go through the process and have the disease steadily over time, because our healthcare infrastructure can handle that. Those huge peaks like we've seen in Italy, like horrible, sad Italy, is so sad. That's what's dangerous. COVID-19 by itself is not particularly dangerous for the vast majority of the population. It is very dangerous for older people and people with underlying medical conditions. But the majority of people will have it and think that they had like a bad cold. That's how it is described to us. So yeah, continue going out for to-go orders and choose the ones that you think are doing the best job with that no contact process. Wild Scoops, they're doing curbside ice cream.
And while you're out there, just to throw this in there from our episode on Tuesday with Tracy, check out the list in Tuesday's episode, because in there you will see a list of businesses where if you do the no contact purchase via on the phone or anything like that, and you get the curbside, take a picture of the food, hashtag it with hashtag CU for every single meal that you order from them, and then hashtag on that picture. So they're rewarding those people who are following these directions and doing it well by actually helping economically some of those people whose jobs have been at risk in this kind of a downturn. So think about things like that and go look at that list. So thank you very much for the information. I got to tell you, from this perspective, and I think almost everyone in this list today can agree, you've given us clearer information that we can use than we normally ever get, and so it feels good, and at the same time it's far more informative than I think what we're used to. Clara, I'm going to jump it back to you because these questions are this is great.
Here's another one kind of on that line. Does the virus survive on like surfaces on goods? Like, should we worry about when we take out food or when we go get groceries or when we get a package in the mail? Could it survive on that?
Yeah, I see a lot of varying and kind of conflicting data. There's all levels of allowing yourself to freak out over this. And the best study that I read kind of looked at how long does COVID-19 last on a variety of surfaces. And by far, it lives the longest and is the most viable on hard plastic and hard metal. It really does not thrive on paper, cardboard, fabric, carpet. It's just not a suitable environment for COVID-19. And that's, these studies, you just have to understand, these are done in a lab, right? When we're looking at like, oh, how long does COVID live? It's some guy in a robe and glasses putting COVID on various things, but it's all temperature controlled. There's no variation in humidity. Like, it's a very controlled environment. So out in the universe, the actual world, it's probably actually less time even than what we see in a lab setting. So they're saying 3 days on metal and plastic, up to 24 hours on paper and cardboard. But again, that's like not being stacked in a box, put in your mailbox, freezing cold, warm in the truck. Like, those are a lot of variabilities. So, I haven't seen strong data that recommends like sanitizing everything that comes in your house. We just haven't seen a reason to do that.
How about food? Like food workers not using gloves or the right protective equipment. Could that make a difference?
Yeah. So in our house, we call that the poop finger, and that transmits all kinds of stuff. You've been at risk for the poop finger your whole life. So COVID-19 really is not any better or worse than E. coli, salmonella, hepatitis A. Like, there's all kinds of stuff you can get from food. So if our food workers didn't know what they were doing in that arena, we'd be a lot sicker in Anchorage than we are. So again, I wouldn't stress about that.
Okay.
You heard it here, folks. The poop finger. Back to you, Clara.
So do we have numbers on the number of people that's currently in the hospital, like hospitalized for COVID-19?
I knew somebody was it's like stump a chump. I did this for the Youth Symphony, and they're asking me to like predict the future. How many people are gonna get infected? I was like, I don't know. Let's look. I think there is data on hospitalizations. The last I looked, I think it was 9. Yeah, so there's 9 cases that have been hospitalized. Oh, so this makes me think. I am now speaking, Abby begged me not to say this, speaking to Vape Nation. Okay? You guys, you vapors, sneaky vapors, closet vapors, sleeve vapors, backpack vapors. So we have had a young person in the ICU with COVID. Globally, the vast majority of young people have gone kind of unscathed. A lot of them, we're thinking, are more like asymptomatic shedders, where they don't ever develop signs and symptoms, which is kind of scary that even is a thing, but it is. But there's a lot of concern about people that smoke tobacco and use like smokeless tobacco vaping products, because what we know about those already, that has its own lung disorder. Evoli is a well-documented lung disorder. But we also know that vaping and smoking tobacco can destroy, so your lungs are sort of the gateway from your respiratory system into your body. And they are lined with all kinds of respiratory illness. And your immune system cells are like, and you never get sick. They die. Like, it kills it, it does its job. What vaping does is it destroys those immune system cells. It's super corrosive in the lungs. So if you haven't stopped vaping, stop vaping. Like, obviously, right? But for real, there's a lot of concern that not only does smoking anything place you at increased risk to get COVID-19 because you don't have those immune system cells. We're really worried, and we haven't really seen, we're not done yet, so we don't really know. I don't have great data, but there is concern that the outcomes could be worse for young people who vape because they may be more likely to develop pneumonia. The thing that's really getting people hospitalized with COVID-19 is pneumonia. And otherwise healthy young adults are getting pneumonia. And so I think when this is all said and done 2 years from now, when all the brainiacs go to analyze hospital data, they're going to see that vaping was a factor in poor outcomes. That's my prediction. Somebody wants to see the future? I'm seeing the future. And the future is vapors are going to get sick. So stop that.
How about young, otherwise healthy people that have like autoimmune diseases or compromised immune systems? How does that affect, like, even if you're young and otherwise healthy?
Yeah, I mean, it depends. I guess to me, that's a mixing of terms, because if you're young and otherwise healthy, then you probably don't have an autoimmune disorder. So people who have autoimmune disorders may not be considered otherwise healthy. But yeah, there are underlying health conditions that have contributed to poor health outcomes with COVID-19. Those tend to be diabetes, lung disease, heart disease, asthma, and then age. I mean, age is a super predictive factor for hospitalization and even death. This is definitely hitting the old folks the hardest.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of think that in places like China and Italy and Spain, they have a lot of what's called intergenerational living. So generations of people living in one house together. And in the US, we've been kind of separated from our older folks for a long time. They either live separately and independently, or they live in like long-term care facilities. Our whole family setup is different. And maybe that will protect our older population from getting exposed to COVID-19 differently than what we've seen in places where everybody lives in one house together. I think we worry about our villages because they do have that kind of setup where there's a lot of grandparents living with like little kid, toddler, little snot monsters, and then they may end up getting exposed. But the vast majority, at least here, in Anchorage, our older people are kind of separate. And in a way, I think that may give us a lot of mileage in keeping them safe from this.
It's pretty fantastic. Hey, Clara, I am going to move over to Tim. Right now, Tim's been monitoring the chat, and he's going to throw in some of the questions that have come into the chat. If you are watching from home and you would like to get your questions answered at this point in time, you can put your questions into the live chat if you are at wolverineden.org. Also remember that if we don't get to your questions today, you can send questions to southvote.com and put those questions there, and we will be sure to send those on and see if we can get answers back and just relay those answers back on a later show as well. So we're going to move over to Mr. Pernage here. There you go.
Morning. So Melissa, the first one's actually mine. When you were talking, and you're one of my favorite people right now. This is great. You mentioned, we don't want it to happen in a month. We want it to kind of spread over a year. Everyone get infected. I know as soon as you said that, all of the small children that are watching, kind of like, we're going to be in this situation for a year. Can we clarify what you kind of mean by that, over a year, and what we're kind of looking for when this whole social distancing thing might be stopped or, started to release a little bit? I know it takes 2 gestation periods and a few other things in order for us to start kind of looking at this differently, but could you speak to that, please?
Yeah, so first, like to lay the groundwork, I think it's important that folks know that there are 4 coronaviruses that are well documented, that we know about, that circulate in our population every year. And they're responsible for 30% of colds. So the only thing interesting and unique about this particular coronavirus is that we had never seen it before. But there are lots of coronaviruses that circulate and that we get every cold season. So we suspect that this will be one of those once it's no longer novel. They're calling it the novel coronavirus because it was brand new. So I don't think there's any sense that we're going to eradicate coronavirus. Because there's no intervention. As of now, there's no vaccine, there's no treatment. So there's really no mechanism to eradicate the virus. we think that probably 12 or 18 months from now, it'll be one of these viruses that circulate that give people a bad cold. The social distancing measures, there's all kinds, I hear all kinds of conversations floating around about what's the right timing? When do we stop? You know, what do we put back first? You know, what do we loosen first, and how long can we do this? And, you know, we don't know, honestly, because I don't think in our modern time we've ever done anything like this. The scale of the social distancing and the closures has really never been done before. So there's not a formula, there's no playbook. We didn't get like the pandemic playbook, although it's a board game, which I hate. I can't even.
God, that game is awful.
It's a terrible game. So I think what we're trying to do is everything we're doing now, we won't really see the benefit until like an incubation period from now. So we're always a little behind. It's like a slow wave of benefit because of the way that the virus transmits and incubates. And so as we start locking stuff down, we'll see the benefit of those measures another incubation period from now, like a week or two away. So there's this sort of rebound effect. So, you know, we didn't really start doing the social distancing and now, you know, closing businesses and limiting community travel till very recently. So we won't really know how that affects things until we're like another incubation period away. And I know that there's a lot of people working on models. There's a lot of models in the US, like modeling on peaks and benefits of social distancing, and UAA wrote a paper about it. The bad thing is that they don't particularly work very well for Alaska because of our super unique geography. You know, our geography is unlike anywhere else in the United States in that we have communities completely off the road system, and we have a small population that's already very dispersed. So I don't think we can stay in lockdown mode for 12 or 18 months, but what we don't want to do is congratulate ourselves too early and see the same giant peak in July. So I think we don't know yet. And certainly at my level, I don't know. I don't know at all. But I know that closing things like schools and colleges has a huge benefit without a lot of economic impact. It separates tons of people without losing a lot of money in the economy. It's pain, but there's a huge benefit to that. Just that physical separation gives us a huge leg up. So I think if we did start opening things up, it probably wouldn't be schools first. Yeah, that's a totally evasive answer because I don't know.
No, I love it. It's great. So if you had the virus, can you get it again?
Well, probably. It's sort of like influenza in that, you know, every new exposure is a new transmission opportunity. The difference is that this time around, like the next time around, there will be better immunity within the population. And some people's antibodies, sort of those immune system cells that fight infection, will squash it and they will not get sick. So fewer people over time will be susceptible to COVID-19 than what we have now, where nobody has antibodies. But yeah, there's no reason to think, I mean, it's a virus like any virus, and there's no reason to think that you couldn't get re-exposed, you know, 4 months from now and get sick again. You know, maybe it'd be milder because you have antibodies, and your body would actually see it and respond to it, which is kind of what we're lacking now, is the immune defense against the virus. So it may be milder over time and fewer people may get sick the second time around. But yeah, I mean, I suspect, you know, there's people who've had influenza multiple times. You know, it's sort of similar to that idea.
One more question. If you do catch COVID-19 but are young and healthy, is there any point to go in the hospital. I think what's more important would be like, what should we do if we think we're starting to get sick?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So the first thing you do, and actually I want to talk about symptoms a little bit, because what we've been seeing in real life is actually quite a bit more dynamic than what's been publicized about symptoms of COVID-19. In real life, people describe chills, body aches, basically feeling crappy. Like that's the sort of first initial like, bleh, like this sicky feeling. And then they may actually have digestive symptoms. We've seen nausea, vomiting, diarrhea with COVID-19 patients. Fever, not so much, like 99. It's not that 100.4 that I keep seeing on all the materials. Many people tell us that they did not have a fever above 100.4. It was more of a low grade fever. And then the cough, although it's not often the most kind of exciting symptom. People are like, yeah, I've coughed a little bit, but so there are people who are confused, realizing that they had COVID-19 because it didn't fit that, 3 symptom grid that we've all been fed by the WHO, the World Health Organization, which is shortness of breath, cough, and fever over 100.4. Those are the symptoms that get publicized. So you could very well have COVID-19 if you have this kind of cascade of interesting, crappy feelings in your body. And the very first thing that we want people to do if they get sick is to isolate themselves. Separate yourself from the rest of your family, from the rest of your household. You need to be in a room separate with your laptop and your phone, and use a designated restroom. Restrooms, cell phones, remote controls, kitchen sinks, those are very good transmitters of COVID-19. So if you can limit how much you're touching everything all over the house when you're sick, you may actually limit transmission within your home. And it's sort of this thing of like, we want to know how many people have COVID-19, but there's also a very real lack of healthcare infrastructure, testing supplies. Every time somebody goes into a clinic to be tested for COVID-19, we risk that healthcare provider getting infected. Is it worth it? Is it sort of like academic at that point? If you're not sick enough to need intervention, there may be no benefit to going out in the community, potentially spreading COVID everywhere you go, to Walgreens to pick up tissues. Then you go into your doctor's office and later they realize like, oh crap, we think that this person had COVID. We should have worn all of our gear. That gear is in very short supply, personal protective equipment, masks, those things are all very limited. And so using them on a healthy person who has a bad cold may not be worth it. Do we need to know that you had COVID-19? Maybe not. If you can just separate yourself, get better, isolate and not be out in the community during the time that you're sick. And actually for 72 hours after you stop being sick, that's when you're done being isolated. Then I think that that's an okay strategy, honestly.
Thank you.
I take it that might be all you have there, Mr. Prunage? All right, cool. We are going to move over to some of our other guests. Thank you so much, Ms. Boyette. I don't think anyone could really even tell you how amazing those few moments were for us, because we have a clearer picture of where we're at, and we have a clearer picture of what's not clear yet. And I think that for a lot of people that information is power right now, and the power to allow ourselves to think through things logically and to communicate with each other and to move forward as a community and understand that, you blinded us with science. What can I say, right? Except for you took the veil away and now we can see. So that song reference made absolutely no sense whatsoever. So we're going to move on. Next, we would like to welcome Mr. Scott Brown. He is our rep from Jostens. If you don't know what Jostens is out there, folks, they're the folks that take care of things like rings and robes and everything else that goes along with all these rites of passages that are taking place right now. And we get lots of questions. the district has to answer those questions, and the principals have to answer those questions about the event itself. It's super cool that that Jostens is willing to let Scott come in here. Mr. Brown's going to let us know a little bit of what he does in the community and what he sees as moving forward, and then Corinne's going to throw some questions at him if he doesn't answer them initially in the process. So thank you. Welcome, Mr. Brown, and let us know who you are, what you do, and what you see.
All right. Well, perfect. Following Melissa up after the poop finger thing is going to be tough, but I learned something there today too. So, guys, my name's Scott Brown. I'm the Jostens guy, the class ring guy, the cap and gown guy, the graduation guy. This is my 27th year doing this, and I tell you what, man, 2020 is going to be a year to remember. It's been, oh, my cat, sorry. Jim, did you see that? Sorry, mine just decided to come for a visit. What a range of emotions. And I know all you guys are going through the exact same thing. As a parent, it was the first thing I thought of. My daughter graduated from South in 07. And then as a business person, as a local business person, how are we going to make sure that we can celebrate this achievement? We have not forgotten you guys, believe me. I'll just give you a quick overview of what we've done on our side. We've spent about 3 or 4 weeks. Once we knew it looked like this was going to head in this direction, the first thing I did was I had all products that were on order shipped directly to me. So I figured the schools were going to be closed. I'm like, all right, I need to have my hands on any orders that are hanging out there or any late orders. So I call up my warehouse, which is my garage, and Mrs. Brown can no longer park her car in there, but all orders that have been placed, you guys, are coming to me. So if you're looking for them, reach out to me. And at the end here, I have no problem anybody calling me on my cell phone to reach out to have any other further questions. So that's on a local level. Obviously, Jostens at a corporate level, they went into panic mode as well. How are we going to help celebrate the class of 2020? So here's where we are to date, and I'll have more detailed information later today. But Jostens sat down with some pretty powerful and high-profile people out in, well, I'll call them celebrities. But to help celebrate the class of 2020, we have built a virtual graduation platform that is going to be released to the district first. And Mr. Allman knows about this because I've chatted with a little bit about this. We're going to release it to the district, and then it'll disseminate down to each individual school. Now, again, I just saw the demo version of it yesterday, so this timing's perfect on this. And I'll just give you what I know about it right now. The virtual graduation will allow each senior and family to take a picture of themselves, preferably in their cap and gown, obviously. Families will write a bio. They'll receive this in a template form, so it's going to be pretty straightforward. Drop the image, type in what you'd like, and then they're going to send it back to the school by where they're going to load that in to the virtual graduation ceremony. We've partnered with Zoom on this, and so we're working very closely with them to try and build as what we feel is as close to the Sullivan Arena extravaganza as we can in the situation there that we're at right now. The really other thing that was really interesting is that when a lot of celebrities heard that we were building this, they've jumped on board. So there's going to be a library of celebrities that if you choose by school to be involved in this ceremony, and whether it's kind of a quick opening commencement speech to music, you can build your own graduation externally with some of our resources, but obviously our goal is not to disrupt the traditional ceremony that you might have at South. And some of the names that were tossed around yesterday, obviously this one makes sense, is Tom Hanks has been all over this. He wants to be involved with the class of 2020, obviously because he was closely touched by COVID as well. And so there'll be a library of speakers that you can choose to use or not choose to use. And then there'll be a library of musicians. And one of the names that was thrown out was Ed Sheeran. he's all over this, wanting to write songs specifically and music for graduation celebrations in the class of 2020. But the really cool thing is we're building a platform that you at your school can customize with a virtual graduation. And then the last part of that is there's some, and because obviously I take care of 61 schools. There's some really small schools, graduating class of 4, and we're not leaving them behind as well. There's going to be a small school version or a family version. So if somebody says, hey, I don't want, or I can't, or who knows what, I'm not going to be involved in big graduation, they'll have the ability to custom design their own virtual graduation, and I'll call it at the family level. So Jostens is working around about 3 weeks. The final version is getting released this afternoon, and then in which case it will disseminate out to your schools. So that's what we've been working on the last 4 weeks, is we haven't forgot about you guys. I mean, we understand, we know, proms get canceled. The last thing we want is graduation being canceled.
Wow, that's a lot of information very, very quickly, and
I know,
news to everybody. It's
yeah.
fantastic.
And I kind of been keeping it a little bit quiet just because I don't want to go out and say anything until I got something to say or show. And I think when we see the final version, you guys are going to be pretty excited about it.
That's intense. Well, Corinne, you're a senior on the panel today. I mean, how do you feel after hearing that?
I feel a little bit better. I mean, I was laughing because I was imagining like little cutout pictures of us like virtually like bopping across like a stage. And so that was making me laugh. But I've had a lot of like questions coming in from people that are watching right now that are just sending them to me individually. And I don't know if this is specifically a question for you or if it's more towards Dr. Allman, but since this platform of online graduation is coming out, does that mean that in-person graduation is like officially canceled?
It's a good question. And considering all the constraints, I would say it is probably likely so. That in-person graduation is off, but we'll have to pay attention to that large group standard, right? So if at any point in that timeline where we would have graduation that's lifted, then we would try to do it. But as long as that large group gathering restriction is in place, then definitely the traditional graduation is going to be limited.
Okay, and back to Mr. Brown. Some students are wondering if we will be able to return our graduation gowns if we're not doing an in-person one. You said that you want part of the online platform is sending a picture in that. But a lot of people are asking, can they return their gowns and possibly keep the cap, or is there any option even to return things?
Yeah, Corinne, I knew that question was coming because they've reached out to me as well. And I'll put my corporate hat on because that was the first question I asked as well when I knew this was all coming down. And this whether you guys know this or not, I'm an independent business person as well. I don't work for Jostens. I'm a contractor to them. So when I said to Jostens, hey, you guys, I know what's going to happen is people aren't going to be able to utilize their cap and gown. They're going to want a refund. And of course, and I knew this answer was coming, they said, well, they've already received it. The answer is no. So then I'm thinking, okay, well, now I'm going to put my parent hat on and my business person hat on in the community. If I issue a refund, Corinne, that will come out of my pocket. Okay, Jostens does not back me up on this one. So when and this is just, I'm just kind of on my soapbox now, being a local business person, I had to make some decisions as to how I was going to go forward business-wise for graduation. And one of the things I always do is, because I know you guys will be shocked to hear this, but not every senior orders their cap and gown on time. And there's a few of you out there that still haven't ordered it. So every year I order extras of everything, and it's a big order. 3 pallets show up at my house for all my schools. So if somebody calls up and says, oh my gosh, I didn't order the stole, I go to South, I have them here in my inventory. So I had to make that decision. Do I even order those? And it was a tough decision to make. And I decided, yes, I'm going to have enough inventory to cover everybody in town if they need them. So that's a long way away around answering your question is, I would rather you guys not ask for a refund. But at the same time, I'm a member of this community and have been for a really long time. And I'm not going to put any financial strain on anybody for that. You know, yesterday I went down to Papa Murphy's and bought my pizza and talked to the kiddos through the drive-through, and you know, and they're like, "Oh, it's the Jostens guy," you know, and they were laughing, I was laughing. So, I mean, obviously, if it comes to that, I'll do it. But know that it's not Jostens, it's Scott.
So that's phenomenal, and I think the community appreciates an offer like that, and I think some people will probably take you up on it. But I also think that, you know, this is that point where I'll probably get in trouble for this later, but let's just toss an idea around here and think about all the connections that have been made, and maybe just start thinking about, you know what, we're not going to get together this year. Sorry, everybody, we're not getting together this year. I appreciate Dr. Allman, even though you can't officially speak to ASD, and I know that's not an official ASD statement, I do appreciate the ability to say, you know, it doesn't look good. And I appreciate that you're willing to say that to folks. But I mean, also, some big names involved in this virtual space. Might be a good time to be calling up corporate, be like, hey, those big names, how about we just throw a gigantic party when this thing is a little bit looser, and all those people that have those cap and gowns that were supposed to be graduating, they don't get it. So let's talk to these folks with their musical talents and their wads of money, and let's throw a giant party at some point in the future and plan on getting a list of these graduates and saying, you know, at some point in the future, we're going to fly y'all into like 2020 Graduapalooza or something like that, right? And just have you all wear your caps and gowns, and now you can customize them because you own them, and put everything you want all over them, and the rules no longer apply, and write on your hats, and go just get your boogie on in your robes and have a blast. That would be super fun. Probably never going to happen because I don't own all the money in the world, but if I did, that would be the direction I would want to go if this doesn't go smoothly. So I'll stop now because, yeah, it doesn't matter. Corinne, you have some more there for Mr. Brown?
I have a few, but they're kind of just a bunch of people asking the same question that's
been answered.
Pretty much. So I wanted to say for people watching, like, a lot of the seniors have been talking about, even if we don't get our own graduation ceremony that's like officially brought by our school district, a lot of seniors have been talking about after everything is over, possibly doing it at the beginning of August or even next year when we're all back from college. And then I think we could get use out of our cap and gown and taking pictures still and getting the equal amount of use out of it for not getting to walk across the stage in it. But yeah, thank you for answering those questions.
Yeah, you guys, it breaks our heart too. I mean, I know how hard you guys work to get there, and I attend every graduation ceremony. I'm standing there in line watching you guys go by, and I get choked up talking about it when I watch you guys, and I'm standing there with extra tassels, and you know, and hearing Pomp and Circumstance gives me goosebumps every single time I hear it. So you're not alone. We are doing everything we possibly can to give you guys the closest thing we can to a graduation ceremony. And it's in flux. It's changing every day. I'm sure when I see the platform this afternoon, it's going to be a little bit different and a little bit better. But just know that we're on our end doing what we can to make sure that this is as normal, if you can say that, as a process as it can be.
Great. I think we need to move on at that point. Thank you so much, Mr. Brown. That's a hard space to be in. And we really appreciate your honesty and your thoughts for our seniors and everything else. And I think it highlights, again, everybody out there. I think moments like this really highlight what South is and what Anchorage is, and that on the inside our community, everyone's willing to do what they can through this process. And even if they got to take one in the chin from another side, at that corporate level kind of a thing. Jostens, you got a great rep here. Keep him around and learn from him, because I think that was pretty solid what he just offered this community. And I think we're all very happy he's a part of our community here in Anchorage. We are going to move on to Dr. Allman is next in our list, and this is his update time. So Dr. Allman, I think we're kind of low on questions for you. Thank you again, Mr. Brown. You're welcome to stick around, and we appreciate that. And if you do mute yourself, please, that way Dr. Allman will get the screen here in a moment. And Dr. Allman, we don't have a lot of questions for you today coming in, because I think you've done a really good job kind of guiding us through this, both as a staff and as students and as parents. If folks out there don't know, you can be going to drallman.com to be getting information there on the updates one or two times a day. I've seen stuff coming out on there. And then also, he's got a Twitter handle that he's going to throw out there in just a minute, because he's super good at doing that. So Dr. Allman, welcome to the show. Please let us know who you are, what you do, and what your overview for the week is.
Thank you. I'm Dr. Allman. I'm the principal of South High School, proud principal of South High School. Seen a lot of great things from people just to try to get through this as best we can, because we're all facing some circumstances that we just don't have control of, but we're going to have to try to take control of and move forward. So it's good to see people reaching out, stepping up, making sure that they're doing their part for the cause and moving forward. So that's awesome. I don't have a lot to add to the general direction. But I would say that we're getting into our orientations. Students are starting to get back in contact with their teachers, and for the most part, that's been a positive experience. I would say that we've had the kind of 2 to 3% of students who've been inappropriate, and that's been tough because we all want to be the best of ourselves and make sure that we get those opportunities to touch base with teachers, fellow students, and all of those people. And I think that will continue to happen, but everyone really needs to be the best part of themselves, or the consequence might be that we just don't get to touch base as often. So I don't want to say that that's going to happen right now. I just want to say everyone has to be the absolute best version of themselves, so that we can continue to use those spaces, learn in those spaces, socialize in those spaces, and make sure that they continue to be an option. So that's just my ask of everyone in our student community, teacher community, and parent community. It's important that we have that space, but it's going to depend on people being the best version of themselves. So wanted to make sure I added that.
And I do want to jump in there, because Dr. Allman's always very eloquent at asking people to be their best and doing those kinds of things, and it's something we truly, truly appreciate. But I'm going to jump in there right now too and say, those of you that are watching today, that have been watching, that have been keeping in touch, that have been doing these things, you're probably not the problem. And so I'm going to ask you to do something beyond just being the best you. You know that 2 to 3% that's going on with. You've hung out with them. You've sat next to them in class. You've walked with them in the hallways. Some of you may be friends with some of them. It's time for you to utilize some of your social standing and your social power to do a little positive peer pressure on these folks and say, hey, clean it up, buddy. This is my school, and this is where I want to be, and I need to get it done. So if you can't fix it, walk off, sonny. Right? So it's time for you guys to kind of step up too and show that we as a group of people, we expect to get through this together, and we expect to do well, and you have some power in this, more than you probably realize. And I'll kick it back over. He's always doing a great job of letting you know how good you are. I'm going to jump in and say, let those folks know that you desire this to be positive as well.
Absolutely. So I would say that the biggest addition I would have is that orientation is now over, and we're moving toward the normal rotation of classes. So there will be office hours tomorrow on Friday for those teachers and those specific subject areas. So I would encourage students to check in with their teachers, especially if you have been working on the modules on Canvas and you have questions. Join the Zoom, ask those questions, make sure that you get what you need from teachers and your peers. So continue to do that and do it in the best way possible. And then we will again start next week, Monday through Friday, with that rotation, and take advantage of it. And we'll move forward from there. Do the best thing you can, or I would say the best thing you can do is continue to access that content, try to do the best you can to get it completed, and just continue asking questions. We're here to help you. We will do everything we can to make you successful, but this is going to be a team effort. We're all going to have to do our small parts, and we're all going to have to move forward together like that. So as long as we're all doing our part, we're good. We're going to be good.
Thank you, Dr. Allman. We really appreciate it. We appreciate the positive motion you've set forward, and I feel like South has been doing very well as a community, as a school, for the most part as students. I've got to see how other spaces are going. I'm super proud of what's happened at South. I think we all appreciate everything you've done and your honesty and eloquence as we move through this. We are going to move over to Elliot, unless we have questions in the chat or from South Vote for Dr. Allman. Do you have anything, Clara? Thumbs up or down? Anything in there? Nothing from Clara? Anything from you, Mr. Pernage? You got something for him?
Yeah, I got a couple cleanup things. First off, there's a lot of people just saying thank you to all the people that are talking right now. Just want to make sure that's known. People really do appreciate the honesty, the clarity that's coming out of this space. Melissa put something in here. Wanted to remind us all to wash our hands all the time with soap. It deactivates the virus and is more effective than hand sanitizer. If you don't have access to soap and water, use hand sanitizer that is at least 60% alcohol. So wash your hands, wash them often. Just a couple other cleanup things. Dr. Allman, looking for your website once more.
Just drallman.com. And so that's where all the information goes up, drallman.com.
And Mr. Pernage is going to throw that into the chat as well because he's super good about getting those links in as we talk about them. And then he also has a Twitter handle if you're not following it. Dr. Allman, you want to throw out that Twitter handle?
And that would be Dr. Allman on Twitter.
Yep. Fantastic. Thank you very much. You guys can keep up to date in those spaces. We're going to move over. Thank you again, Dr. Allman. We love that you're here 2 times a week. We know you have a ton of stuff going on. You have other people in your house working from home, making all of that happen. And as well, I think that you're locked in your house for a while from what I hear too. So we really appreciate that you're getting things done and doing it well, and we dig it. So we're going to move on to Elliot, who is our Student Gov rep today. Elliot, jump on and give us the skinny, my friend.
So as you guys have heard before, we're having Spirit Week next week. And we're all super hyped about that, super excited about that. And so you guys have heard it a bunch, but here it is again. Monday is a pajama day because our school is at home, and so we get to just have a fun time. I know we've all wanted a pajama day, so just dress up. I'm going to have a abominable snowman onesie that I think I'm probably going to wear on Monday. So just have fun. Tuesday is Tourist Day. Because like we said, summer's just around the corner. We all want to go to Hawaii. We all have plans for the summer. We all want to go somewhere and, get out of our house. We all just want to, jump on a plane, just have fun. And so dress up as a tourist. I'll probably have a camera, wear some sunglasses, probably put on too much sunscreen. That's what I'm doing. Wednesday is hat day. I don't know exactly what I'm doing for this, but all we can see on our Zoom is your head. So wear, your favorite hat, your craziest hat. Just wear whatever hat you want. And hopefully, we can get some good laughs. And Thursday, you're going to dress as your teacher, your favorite teacher. I don't know. I don't want to upset anybody. So I'll probably pick a little bit of all 6 of my teachers, just find something to dress up. That way, I'll still be everyone's favorite. And Friday, we're all still true South. So black and gold all day, every Friday, because we're still South High students, whether it's online or whether we're at school. And if you're gonna dress up for those, you can send them to the Twitter at SAHS official. You can just look up South Anchorage High School, or you can send or into any student government Instagram or email or anything, or Twitter or anything, or you can send them into email at sahsstudentgov@gmail.com, and that's the SAHS and student, they share an S, so that's cool, I guess.
That's not going to be confusing at all.
But one of the things we are looking at is how to do elections, because I know everyone, especially me, like I'm looking forward to, doing student government next year. So one of the biggest things, they're actually on a Zoom meeting right now, the rest of student government is, we're figuring out how to do elections. And one of the things, the first thing we're talking about is like, all right, there's a form that you have to fill out, the packet. Those of you who have done it before, there's a packet you have to fill out. And part of it is information. And so we're figuring out a way to get the packet to everybody, including incoming freshmen for next year. And we're planning on reaching out to Mr. Nog at Golden South English High School and trying to get into student government. And so the packet right now, we're figuring out how to get that to you. But right now we are saying that you should fill that out, and you're going to give the contact information and to Mrs. Haberstad. There's that. I don't really know where else I was going with that. And part of there is there's 3 essay responses you're supposed to do. They're super easy. It's like, when have you been a leader before in your community? And I don't remember all 3 of them, but they're on the packet. And so you're going to write those and also share those with Mrs. Haberstad. And then part of it is there's 100, you're supposed to get 100 signatures. And right now, obviously, you can't get 100 signatures when you're supposed to be 6 feet apart, because you're not going to throw like a paper airplane at everybody just to get them to sign the paper. So we just decided to completely just get rid of that. We figured as long as you can get the 3 essays done, and you're supposed to and you have to email 2 teachers and have them write a quick recommendation for you. And yeah, so that's the packet. It's just the essays, your information, how we can reach out to you, and our teacher recommendation that you can email to them. And then also we're wondering, all right, people love to campaign, give out candy and stuff at school, give out snacks. And obviously if we're not at school, we can't do that. So we thought about, maybe you could like ship toilet paper to everyone. That would be helpful to you. But we're talking about, campaigning here on the announcements, and how we could have people, come do their speeches here, and we could film it, and maybe, have people like debate on here, and like just kind of be like, hey, we can ask you questions and be like, hey, why do you think you would be, a good president? Or why would you be a good, I'm an exec board historian, so like, why would you be a good that? And I would give the best answer. But there's that. And voting, we're still figuring that out. We're thinking about, doing like a Google form and trying to make that like secure, and like have people, vote for just their grade on that. And we're on elections. We were thinking about maybe Zoom, like what we're on right now and what you guys have been on doing your classes this entire time. And so there's that. So we're just figuring all that stuff out right now. And another thing we're doing is we're trying to like plan for next year, and plan at the end of this year too, is how can we do some sort of senior fun day for like later in the year, and like if that's gonna happen, and like we're trying to figure out like how we can still put on events with all of these restrictions. And so
send every really senior a VR set, and somebody turn your volume off on your computer for a minute. Send everybody a VR headset, and everyone just goes into one VR space and just goes crazy. Yeah, that won't be pricey at all.
Yep. Nope, not at all. That's pretty much it from a student perspective.
Fantastic. So we're going to move on now. Thank you very much, Elliot. We're glad you joined us. Just to wrap that up real quick, we're going to have voting. We're going to have debates. We're figuring all of it out, and that's where we go. So I can see the gentleman entering his kitchen right now. Now, please, everybody, please welcome Mr. Mike Jipping from Beach Soda Works. He is going to run through how to make what we are calling safe sippers, because Mocktails does not sound appropriate anymore. So he's going to rock through some recipes for safe sippers. Just so you know, Mr. Jipping is the sponsor of today's show. You can see right over here some of the fantastic products that he's been making, and which is also served at Beartooth, which apparently has the best service aspect of how you can get no-touch food lately, by the way. Thank you, Miss Boyette, for that information. So he's going to run through how to use some of his products and other household products to make some fun kind of drinks, mixed drinks, non-alcoholic, for you at home, and then offers you a challenge. So welcome to the show, Mr. Jipping. Go for it.
Thanks. Can you hear me all right?
We're good.
Cool. Well, I just want to start with saying thank you to Dr. Ullman. Thank you to Melissa. Thanks to Tim and Lee and Scott. I really appreciate the opportunity. And Beach Tribe's all about being light and refreshing, but I want to be also stay responsible. And so I figured I'd at least start it off the right way and wash my hands really well. So I'm here to tell you a little bit about what I've been up to, and then I'm going to run through 4 quick mocktails, and I'll try to keep this as short and sweet as possible. And then the challenge today is for you guys to come up with your own safe sipper recipe, not mocktail. Sorry. See, I'm stuck in the old school already.
You were the one that wanted to change it.
I want to change it. All right. I'm going to start with some personal protective equipment. And, you don't have to do this at home, but some of these practices are good to just always to think about and consider. And just remember that gloves are not something that you do instead of washing your hands, just like hand sanitizer is not instead of washing your hands, it's after washing your hands. And then if you are touching your face or touching your hair or touching your iPhone, then you want to go and wash your hands again. So I started Beach Tribe Soda Works as a creative non-alcoholic solution to refreshments in the community, and I wanted to do something local, and I really wanted to start with health conscious sodas, and so I wanted to run through my process a little bit, but I wanted to say that I want to give a shout out to the Broken Tooth and the Bear Tooth and the Moose Tooth, because I am permitted to make my soda out of the Broken Tooth, and so that's been a huge blessing. And I do appreciate Melissa's statement about the Bear Tooth, and I would like to just interject real fast for people to think about that a little bit more. A lot of the businesses have been hurt, so I mean, no disrespect, but think about the Bear Tooth. That's what they do, is bring together, 400 plus of your favorite people, and now that's not even possible. So if you do get a chance, if you're doing pizza in a movie, and you right away think of the Moose's Tooth and you call them and there's a busy signal, well, you can get that stuff right at the Bear Tooth as well, and you can get a $5 growler of Red Dragon Punch while you're at it. All right, so a little bit about the process is I buy fresh produce from Di Tommaso. So it's all about the ginger, huge hands of ginger. I use lemons, habanero, these little spicy dudes here. Honey is what I sweeten it with. And I kind of adhere to the keep it simple soda. I take the produce. As you can see, I have some other stuff here with me today, but let's just say ginger. I break it down, chop it up, put it in a food processor, and then I put it in a hydraulic cold press and just press it so all the juice comes out. I take all the juice along with some honey and I put it in a big boiling pot of water, and I'll make sure that that is boiling, and we, it's kind of like making soup or porridge. And then after I boil it for a little while, then I crash cold chill it. I run it through a chiller into a bright tank. And as soon as it gets down to 34 degrees, that's when I'll Shazam it with some bubbles. And then we got craft soda. And it's ready to either go into a keg, if you're going to have it off tap, or into a can. And right now out in the stores, I have a couple different flavors in cans. Red Dragon Punch and the original ginger beer. And I'll go over where you can get that in a few minutes. So onward into the safe sippers. All right, so I'm going to do 4 quick ones here. And I'll talk about what goes into some of the fun that you can have at home. First of all, choose your favorite glass, right? I prefer glassware because plastic is, not as earth friendly. So I'm going to do a premium, and I'm going to use the Beachtribemike soda mug, handmade by Jeff Sarzi down in Homer. Then I'm going to do one that is we're going to call it the Quarantini, and I'm going to pull something out of the cupboard, and we're going to whip that up. Then I'm going to do a new spin on an old classic, the Shirley Temple, and you guys are, I'd love it if you could help me come up with a new name for the Shirley Temple. And then last, we're going to talk about something a little bit progressive, maybe with some immunity boosting added to it. But I'm not a scientist, I'm just the artist. But if you look into ginger, I think you'll find a lot of medicinal properties, even lemon, habanero, raw honey. All right, here we go. First, there's even a science to how many ice cubes, right? So I prefer 4. 4 is my favorite number.
Why is 4 your favorite number?
Well, it all stems from being a Packer fan. And when I really started getting into the Packers, Brett Favre was the man. And so I think that really, I always really appreciated 4 as a number. But then when I met my wife and she told me her favorite number was 4, it really was hard to pass up. All right, so we start with ice. And then we're going to go with, I'm going to call this one the Royal Wizard. And I'll get into that in a minute. So what I did this morning was I juiced up some Alaska carrots, and even better, Alaska purple carrots, which I've been told have 10 times the nutrients as an orange carrot. And if you look up, you can Wikipedia the Alaska carrot, it's a whole nother beast in and of itself. And then I also have some beets here. So what I like to use for a shot glass, it comes from like REI, just these little doodads here. I'm going to start real fast with a shot of ginger. If you guys really want to kick in the pants, drink some straight ginger.
Ooh, that hurt me. Ah, oh.
That's a good one. All right, so I'm going to go with the purple carrot. I'm going to shoot a shot of that. All right. And then we're going to do some orange juice. And generally I will juice the oranges in the morning too, but I didn't have time for that. So I grabbed some orange juice. And then you can use either the Red Dragon or the ginger beer. But as I mentioned, there's raw honey, there's a kick of habanero, lots of ginger. There's actually at least a shot. or at least a shot of ginger in this can, and then lemon, and here we go. All right, and then I got some mint, and my favorite place to get mint is right here at Seeds of Change, which is a really cool place in Midtown. And you know, you can even start by muddling this up, but since I didn't think that far in advance, sort of. All right, so there's our first one. Cold pressed juice, you know, with a small batch craft soda. Number 2 is easy. I'm gonna jump into the cupboard here. Got some chowder.
Chowder. Chowder ginger drinks.
Sweet corn.
Sweet corn. This is going to a dark place right now.
Mild chili. Pumpkin. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Refried beans.
Okay. I'm getting
Pineapple.
frightened.
Pineapple.
Oh, pineapple. That mixes well with the refried beans.
I don't know. I haven't never made one with refried beans yet. All right. So this one we're gonna do a little version of let's say a dark and stormy, and we're gonna start with some molasses that I pulled out of the cupboard. Just a touch. Little vanilla. Everybody's got vanilla in their cupboard. Ooh, that was probably too much. Darn it. Put some pineapple juice. Yep. And then we're going to do Red Dragon. No, we're not. We're going to do ginger beer. Right. Then I'm going to use a little slab of lime to garnish it. Okay.
So, in a previous life, I may have mixed drinks for people growing up, and I would say we should change the name of this one to Loneliness on the Beach.
I like it.
Thinking of some of the ingredients, I think we should go that route.
There you go.
Here we go. Loneliness on the beach. All right.
Here's a new twist on the old classic Shirley Temple. Shirley Temple is generally just like, what, Sprite or 7-Up and a little bit of cherry juice. But if you start right away with the ginger beer, you're already miles ahead, right? But we're going to get a little crazy. Add a little red with the Red Dragon Punch. Rose's Grenadine. And
Always going for the refried beans. No? Oh, okay. All right.
I was
Be careful. with that.
chilies, but I don't have any hot red chilies.
Whew.
So I got,
Now, historically, who was Shirley Temple?
well, that's a great question. She was super little and cute for a while. But I think we have, and she's a dancer, right? And a singer.
Yeah.
Check this out. Little mustache.
Nice. So we need to come up with a new name for that, right? We call it the fiery tap dancer. There we go. All right. Keep going. Let's go. Progression. I like it. Immunity time.
Sure. All right. I don't know if anyone's heard of the Tahitian noni juice, but look it up when you get a chance and learn all about its immune boosting qualities. So I'm going to start with a big old shot of this. Bam.
Now, say that again. Tahitian what?
Tahitian noni juice. It's a noni fruit. It's a tropical fruit, superfruit.
And it can't bend its legs.
Apparently it looks real funky, almost like a spiky football, and it smells horrid. Like some people have described it as smells like puke or
Appetizing.
Melissa brought up. I'm not even gonna say it, but I think it probably smells like that. But when you juice it, it's a different story. So then we're gonna add a little bit of the Red Dragon. We're gonna add a little bit of the ginger beer, and then I also juiced up a bunch of beets to add a little sweetness to it. And it sounds crazy, but if you drink the beet juice, you can get a whole new appreciation for it.
Well, you know, coming from a space where we grew sugar beets, beets are phenomenal when you prepare them right. If you don't, and you don't grow them right, they're horrifying. But if you do it right, they're amazing.
I love them.
Yeah.
So those are my 4. Cheers. I wanted to bring up that I know we're all getting crazy and bored, but you know, speaking of fruits and vegetables, don't turn into a couch potato. And join the Beach Tribe's Healthy Futures Challenge. If you guys haven't already heard about it, we started our own team. It's 100 miles in May with a bonus month of April. So it started yesterday. And you can get points or miles for doing just about anything. Playing ping pong, doing martial arts, riding horses, you know, obviously walking on the treadmill, running outside, biking. And if you go to sign up, it's free, it's easy. Put in Team Beach Tribe and let's have fun with it. We can connect that way.
That's awesome.
I don't think I have anything else. I just really appreciate you guys letting me do this. We got a bunch of, I was going to say, you can get the ginger beer. Oh man, here's my vendors. In South Anchorage, I have only South and Chain Reaction at the moment. We got a shout out to Claudius and Steam Dot. It's sad that they weren't able to be with us today, but they'll be back alive and kicking. And then we have both Sagayas at the Natural Pantry, obviously the Beartooth 49th State, Urban Greens, Charlou, Uncle Leroy's, and K Street Convenience. And then if you know any vendors or have any favorites that you want to see it, just give me a shout or give them a shout and we'll figure it out.
That's awesome. All right. Thank you so much for joining us today, Mike. Everyone give a big wave to Mike. Thank you again. This has been super cool. Been awesome. I just want to let everybody know that Mike is throwing out a competition there to everybody. If you didn't catch it, come up with some drinks at home. You can be using his product or another product, but get some recipes in there. Send them to us at southanchoragenews@gmail.com or send them directly over to the Unger twins, who are now counting all their horse riding as healthy futures. And you can connect with them over at TheDen, I believe is the right one.
It's at SAHS TheDen.
At SAHS TheDen. There's too many ats in my life right now. So we are going to send those either directly to the email, or you can message those recipes over to at SAHS TheDen. We will get those loaded up into everywhere that we can reach out, so you can start making some stuff and get some prizes figured out there as well. All right. Oh, Corinne has a question. We're going to go to Corinne. We've gone to Corinne.
Well, it's not really a question, but Scott Brown put in our thing that on Instagram they are doing I'm not sure if it's a challenge or competition or drawing, but seniors need to post pictures of themselves in their caps and gowns, and then the most creative picture will get a free class ring from Jostens. So go post your pictures. We have a lot of time, so you have a lot of time to come up with something creative to post and tag Jostens.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Corinne. Moving on to some of the other good stuff that's happening today, just for you folks at home, especially if you got little rugrats running around and they're not zoomed in all the time. And so you're starting to realize, I really like that they go somewhere for 6 hours a day. We have a treat for you folks. A friend of the show and a friend of the program, Mr. DJ Spencer Lee. That was Bria's cue.
DJ Spencer Lee.
Yeah, that's all right. Sometimes we gotta, flail. Anyway, big friend of the show, Mr. DJ Spencer Lee.
DJ Spencer Lee.
Didn't work again. That's all right. We're good. He is hosting a virtual Jams for Fams. Any of you, we've talked about the Beartooth a lot today. I think I need to call their publicity people and see if we can get some shout outs on their end today. There's been a lot of Beartooth talk. Spencer's always done the DJ Jams for Fams over at the Beartooth, where they'd open it up, they'd clear the floor, he'd be DJing up there, lights a blinking, smoke a flying, kids a dancing, swag everywhere for kids to have fun with and play with. Well, he said, you know what, kids still need somewhere to let off some of that steam. So he is hosting a Jams for Fams today at 3 p.m. So if you're a parent out there or an older sibling, keep in mind that, this is really, really tough on those little kids too, because the front part of their brain isn't all the way there yet and understanding why all this, we got to use a lot of fear to keep them in and a lot of questioning, stuff like that. So it's tough. It's really tough on those guys because they're used to moving and grooving and building those social connections as well. So at 3 p.m. today, Jams for Fams, check it out on his Facebook page. You can go to facebook.com/jamsforfams, or on Instagram. It will also be live at instagram.com/jamsforfams. That is the number 4 in the Instagram and the word FOR in the Facebook. Good thing for you, we're going to put it all down in the description so you could just copy those, paste those into a URL somewhere. And so check that out at 3 o'clock today. I think it's at 3 o'clock today, maybe at 2. Go check those both out. They'll be linked. They are linked already in the description. Jams for Fams virtual party. And then we'll wrap up as we get going on forward and kicking back to you guys again. And, what's that?
Who's hosting that?
Oh, Mr. DJ Spencer Lee.
DJ
Spencer.
Yeah, we just had it only took 4 times to figure it out. I'm so proud of all of you so much. We want to thank all of our guests for coming in and talking with us today. As always, we're going to stick through this with you guys all the way to the end. And we appreciate you putting questions over at southvote.com, for jumping in questions into the chat, for watching at wolverineden.org, for checking out old episodes at sahs.com. And if you can't remember all those, that's perfectly fine, because we're going to be here again on Tuesday, even though it's going to feel like 3 weeks have gone by. As a wrap up on what's going on, get the questions in, make sure you're paying attention to that, and join us on Tuesday of next week. We'll have that run out coming to you at SAHS TheDen on Instagram. I got that right this time. I bet the girls are super, super proud of me right now. I figured it out. I didn't stumble, and I remembered my cue. Oh, and one last shout out, a personal note, because, hey, I'm running the board. I get to do what I want. I want to say thanks to Dylan Conduzzi for the Blackbeard flag back here. He has seen that I had a pirate flag, and he is working on teaching me pirate flag lore and what they mean. So big thanks to Dylan. I promise to get it hung a little bit better so that we have a series of different pirate flags back there. And I think that's just to celebrate the fact that even though we're not really pirate TV, I feel kind of piratey. Arr. All right, so thanks very much. We appreciate it. Look at all those faces, just like cringe-worthy all the time. Corinne, will you take us out today?
Yes, I will. Wash your paws and keep your claws sharp, Wolverines.